What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. I was actually watching the game when Brady was asked about the situation. I guess Baker Mayfield had said on a podcast, let's just go. Essentially, Kevin Burkhardt during the broadcast of the Eagles and Bucs, where Brady was very complimentary of Baker throughout the game, because how could he not be? Baker looked awesome. I mean, was just throwing dots, moving around, and played well. But about some comments that he made on a podcast, kind of in relation to Tom. And honestly, I think in a short career, but one of Tom's great moments so far in the booth.
Said, quote, they wanted me to come in, be myself, bring the joy back to football for guys who weren't having as much fun. It's funny because you've made this environment for me very stressful up here in the booth, so I understand where he's coming from.
Do you feel it?
No.
Feel the stress? No. Well, I was going to say, I thought stressful was not having Super Bowl rings. So there was a mindset of a champion that I took to work every day. This wasn't daycare. If I wanted to have fun, I was going to go to Disneyland with my kids.
One thing I will say is when you get into business with certain people, I read an article recently on the CEO. I didn't read an article. I heard a guy that read an article on a podcast, on a business podcast, talking about it. And they had all these anonymous sources from NVIDIA. And basically the guy that runs NVIDIA, that's worth, Jeff Bezos money at this point in time, it's a very, very tough environment. It's a very, very difficult place to work. It is not necessarily a happy place. But I think well over half their employees are multimillionaires, and 25% are worth $20+ million. So when you get into business with certain people, and in sports, I would put Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Tom Brady. It's not a comfortable environment. When I worked in football with Howie and Andy, it's not a comfortable environment on a daily basis. Certain places are just not smiles, rainbows, and everyone's having a fun time 24/7, 365. Now, obviously, there are some successful businesses that can do that, but I would say football parallels a lot of the business world. It's pretty intense. And Tom would fall under the category of being the most intense. And it's probably not the easiest place to work because his standards are so high. And let's face it, his standards were even higher than the coaching staff, right? It doesn't get any higher than what Tom Brady brings to the table. We have had books, documentaries, you name it, on the Belichick-Brady era. That was really, really intense. And it worked for the Bucs because the franchise was kind of a joke for the last decade plus before he showed up. Boom Super Bowl, boom playoffs. And even his last year, which wasn't great, they hosted a playoff game. Now they got blasted by the Cowboys, but it still happened. And I think Baker being asked about this, or Baker bringing this up, I don't really look at him any different, because I would imagine he was told, one, it's impossible to replace Tom Brady. You can't bring in someone and tell them to act like that and have it not crumble at your feet, because no one can do that. He's a one of one. Well, I mean, Peyton Manning, but it's no one that was available to the Bucs could have brought that intensity and that craziness and just that maniacal drive and focus to the Buccaneers. So I would imagine Jason Light and Todd Bowles and those guys talked to Baker of listen, we're looking for you to bring, be yourself and just be a positive influence on the locker room. Guys, pretty worn out from Tom. Now it worked. Now the last year, when Tom was 45, he was showing his age a little bit. Not his arm strength, but didn't want to get hit, was always grouchy. It's one thing when you're winning big. It was like the Patriots. Can you imagine a more miserable place the last 3 or 4 years? Listen, if you're going to pay people not that much money, players, coaches, and staff, and you're going to win Super Bowls, people can get on board and win Super Bowl after Super Bowl. But when you start not sniffing the playoffs, you talk about a place where everyone's ready to jump off a bridge, right? So you can act like you can at NVIDIA if everyone's becoming millionaires. Go to companies that aren't successful when no one's making money. You talk about toxic environment. Hell, I worked at a radio station, incredibly toxic environment. Everyone was miserable. Everyone hated each other. It's just, I would imagine a lot of people listening have been to those, in those type situations professionally. But even if people are miserable and everyone's having success, whether that be money or in football, that be winning, people just kind of keep their mouth shut. And when you don't win at a high level, people start, we call it in football, locker room lawyers, right? The people bitching and moaning around the water cooler. People nowadays with this modern era, it's probably more, off the Zoom record talking some shit. So the thing that stood out to me about that moment is like, Tom, I want a little more of this. Talk a little shit. Like, bring a little red ass. Like, that's kind of who you are in the football world. If you're not going to be Mr. Jokester, which if that's not your natural personality on camera, that's fine. But I kind of like that. Dropping, this ain't daycare. If I wanted fun, I'd go to Disneyland. That's what I want. That's what I want out of Tom. And I know this was laid up on a silver platter with the comments, but I hope we get some more of that. Like, you're Tom Brady. No one has what you has. You can say things that no one else can say. There is no rebuttal. Dikembe Mutombo just passed away today. R.I.P. Legendary 90s sports figure. And I just searched his name on Twitter and saw just some incredible clips of him and Michael Jordan at All-Star games. And Michael just talking mad shit about how he dunked on him. Dikembe said he never did. And it was just like, when Michael comes at you, what are you going to say? When Tiger comes at you, what are you going to say? When Kobe's coming at you, like Tom's in rare air. And some of these broadcasters, it's like, who am I listening to right now? And listen, they're NFL players. They've made money. They accomplished college players. Nobody sniffs this guy. And I just hope he throws some more just heaters. He starts throwing some blows a little bit. It's like, it's a pretty easy one for him. And he can do it in kind of a light way. And I thought that was perfect. And I want more of that from old Thomas Brady on the broadcast. So, and here's the thing, I'll give him credit. Like, it's not like he took it that personal. He was very positive, interviewed Baker after the game. I enjoyed it. So hopefully we get more of that. Overall, kind of like a story that, I mean, who cares? I mean, I would imagine on all the morning, talking head shows, screaming at each other. It's like, this guy doesn't want the heat. But guys, he was just talking on a podcast of probably reiterating what he was told. And he's been awesome for them.